I'm starting this video off with 2 piles of yarn, and it's because this pattern is designed to work with 2 different textured yarns to get a final result that you see in the finished item. And the issue that's going to come up, that I've got workarounds no matter which furry kind of yarn you use, will be resolved along the way in several steps. So the main yarn you're going to be working with is category 4 cotton yarn. This is standard, any brand you like. And then the textured yarn for your fluffy cat, in this case a ragdoll, or if you want it to mimic another type of fluffy cat, maybe a Siberian, Himalayan, whatnot, you need your fluffy yarn. And maybe the color you want is not in this brand. Maybe you live in a country where the brand I'm using is not available. Not to worry. What you're going to look for, and I recommend doing it in person, because this yarn that I used, which is Karen Latte Cakes, if you look at the label, if you're shopping online, it's going to say it's a category 5, and it is absolutely not what we think of when we think of a category 5. When you see it next to the Cotton Aran, it looks the same, and actually it's just a small tiny bit thinner. And when I'm working with it, you'll see the disparity between the two as I'm working in rounds. Even though they look close, they're really not when you're working with them. And that's going to be the case with any yarn. But my recommendation is to hold the yarn you're getting next to the cotton yarn you're working with and get it as close as possible. Even though there's really little chance it will be identical, just get it as close as possible, whether it's a little bit thinner, a little bit thicker, but close enough. And you'll see as we work through the pattern, the hacks along the way, because this is an unconventional way of putting together amigurumi. Alright, so let's get to the pattern. We're going to begin the ragdoll head at the bottom and work our way up. So if you're following along the pattern on the website, I've got my chain here, and it's all going to be single crochet. In the second chain, here's the first, here's the second. I'm going to put a single crochet, and then a second one. Make sure I'm still snug, and then single crochet in this back loop across the row. The stitches are just a little snug because of the size of hook we're using with this yarn, but that's the way it's supposed to be with this type of crochet. You don't want loose stitches because you're going to stuff it pretty firmly and it won't hold its shape otherwise. If you have a ragdoll, please tell me in the comments what color and the name. And I know some of us like to know how much they weigh because they're such big cats. I have 2 boys and they're big. I have one that he hovers around 20 pounds. And the one I call the little one, he's about 17 pounds. He's not quite full grown, but I don't think he'll get much bigger. Okay, I'm at the end of the row. And it says to work 3 stitches in the end. So I've worked 1 in the last stitch. I'm going to add 2 more into that same stitch. So instead of turning and going back, we're going to be working in the round. So that means twist it, and you can work the end in when you do this. Alright, so now I'm going to do 2 single crochet in the next stitch, which is here. 1, 2, and then work down to the end. And make sure you're getting both loops when you work in here, otherwise it's going to have a big gap. See how I've got 2 on my hook? And then you want to have your stitch marker ready. And I'm going to use just a piece of yarn because this is a small project and we'll be coming to the end of the round very often, and the unhooking and rehooking of a hook every maybe 2, 4, 5 dozen stitches as you come around, it gets a little tiresome. So the piece of yarn works great, and I'll show you how I do that. Alright, here I come to the end. So before the last stitch, I'm going to work 2 single crochet in this one. Oops, I think my yarn split there. Can't have that. Snug it up. One, 2, and here at the end, another 2. And then let me get my placeholder. I don't have it right here. And then the end of the round is here. Oh, that's stitch. And that's stitch. Let me get my little stitch stretcher. I use this when my stitches are a little tight. Cotton's pretty easy to stretch just a bit when you need it. Make sure I have both loops, but none from another. And since this part of the needle is wider, as I pull it through, makes it a little more easy to get in. Pull that yarn snug. And slip this stitch. So this is how it's going to look now. And we're just making a long, almost like a rounded rectangle. I would say oval, but oval makes me think of an egg where there's some tapering. This is just a rectangle with rounded ends. Alright, so that's how you do the first round. Okay, so now in round 2, I've worked 2 in that first stitch where I put the stitch marker. I've done 13 single crochets, that's 1 single crochet in each stitch, until I got to the 14th stitch where I put 2 single crochet. So as you read the pattern, this is how it reads. 13 single crochet here, 2 in next, then 2 single crochet in 1 stitch. I know all those 2s can get a little, make your head spin just a little bit, but just take it one instruction at a time before the comma. Alright, so as you work your way around, you'll do 13 down towards the end. And I've already worked a few, but I'll meet you at the other end. Alright, so I'm at stitch 11, 12, 13, that's my 13 single crochets down this side, 2 single crochet in next stitch. So on the 14, I'll make 2 single crochet, and at the end, and I will slip my stitch with that stitch marker. And we won't be slipping the stitch for the whole thing, but the first few rows of the base we will. So now you can see it's a nice even, well, it's curving a little, but how it looks. Right, so that's round 2 done, and you should have 38 stitches at this point. You might want to count, the way I count is I go from the last stitch I made and then go back around this way and come up to this stitch. Alright, so keep following that through round 4, and then we're going to look at attaching the triangle part of the face, how to make the triangle and how to adjust the triangle if you would like yours to look a little bit different than the one you see in the image. If you have a ragdoll that you like, that you own, maybe you like a mask to look a certain way. I know ragdoll enthusiasts and owners have a preference for these things, and I want to give you the option to customize it to look the way you would like it to look. And I'll meet you back. I've completed 5 rounds, and I'm about to start on round 6, which is the back loop stitch. And the reason that I'm doing that is because that starts the curve of this, so that we have the nice broad beautiful head of a ragdoll, and then it starts to come up this way. I'm going to make it a little bit wider so that we have that full fluffy cheek. So let me see, the pattern says to just go around in the back loop. There's no increase on this particular round. So I'm taking my hook, you see, here's the stitch, front loop, and that's the back part of the stitch.
Hooray! Yay!
I'm excited to show you the project trackers I have designed, and I wish I did this years ago because they have been really wonderful to have. So first of all, nice size, fits right into a project bag, and this is the large print. In the front of the large print, I want to show you, there is a true to life 4-inch ruler, so you can check your gauge easily. You don't have to fumble around, look for a ruler. I've used this quite a bit in just the past 4 projects I've used in this book. And there's also small print, and each of these books has sections for small projects, mid-sized, and large projects like blankets. So the small projects, there's 60 stitches, like a dishcloth something like that. And there's room for notes, and I have space after each stitch that you check off. If you have to put a note, maybe you changed a color, you changed a stitch, you changed your hook, all of that can be in there. Mid-size projects, 180 stitches, and there's room for notes. And then the blanket size, 330 stitches. And then let's compare the large size print, which I need because I have terrible eyes since I was a teenager, compared to the small size. So handy. And of course a link will be available to get these if you want one for yourself. Just the back loop. And just get your hook in there. Whoops. Slip down. And I'm going to work my way around. And I will meet you back at the end, because we're going to do a significant increase in the next round, and I want to show you how to count when you do that round. Okay. I've completed my 54 stitches in the back loop only, and you can see it's starting to curve. Now I'm going to take out my stitch marker and put it here. Now your pattern will say 2 single crochet at certain stitches, one of which is the first one, and that means an increase of 2 stitches in all of the stitches that are numbered for that round. So how you're going to count when you go around is, okay, that was 1, 2, the number 2, but also 2 in that space. 3, 4, 5, they can be a little tricky after that back loop only stitch. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and at stitch 20 you're going to increase, so it's 20, put another one in there, and that's stitch 22, so 20 and 21. Let me redo that, that maybe didn't make sense. Okay, so I put one stitch into stitch 20, a second one into that stitch, which is 21. The next stitch is 22, 23, then increase at 24. So stitch into the 24th stitch, add another stitch in there, that's 25, 26, and continue around doing an increase where it's noted in the pattern. And this increases a full 10 stitches, so at the end of the round you will have 64 stitches. Okay. Hi, it's editing Stephanie here, and I see this part of the video is very blurry, so I'm drawing a diagram of this next step, which is attaching the face mask to the body that you've already created. Now you'll see in the diagram, the oval is the face mask, and then the triangle the oval is the body, and the triangle is the face mask. And if you look down towards the bottom, the aqua blue arrow and dot indicate the start of the round. The royal blue marks indicate where you will be attaching the face mask to the oval. So you want to count your bottom stitches and evenly space them from the center out. And what I did was attach it with safety pins because they're so easy to remove and they're very slim. And then with the wrong side out, bring the two together and slip stitch the face mask. It wasn't too bad, just a few stitches. And we'll frame the ragdoll eyes very beautifully. And the last one. There we have it. Now we'll be coming in with the furry yarn and the eye placement. And for my triangle, I'm going to not use all the way to the point. I'll be folding it down slightly like that. Okay, I'll meet you back. We're going to get started with some more rounds and build up the beautiful cheeks of our ragdoll. So the starting stitch, I'm going to undo it because I'm bringing up the color. And best practice for doing that is to bring in the new color before you close off the last stitch. Stitch marker, because we need to keep count. Leave enough of a tail. Reminder, this is the Karen Latte Cakes, and I believe this one's called Peach, Peach something. Pull my white yarn snug. I'm going to leave the yarn, although I'll probably cut it soon because I won't be using white for a while. Alright, so we're just going to single crochet around. Forward, and it'll be full single crochet, the tail in the back. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll need to join the triangle each time we come around. So I'm going to slip into it. And then I'm going to chain behind. So normally when you work with two colors, not always, but you'll carry your other color through. And since we're not doing that with this is very unconventional what we're doing here, but it's going to be easy and save you a headache in the long run with ends and where to join your yarn and to just get a nice smooth finish. So just go with the flow here and let's do this together. Alright, so where was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5, and I know this is 17 across, so 5 and 17 is what, 22? 5, okay. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and that 22nd stitch will be the slip into this one. It's 22, and then keep working. So we have 23, 24, 25. I'll keep going around till I get to the end, which will be back of the head, 64 stitches. So it's joined on the front, we don't see it in the back, and we keep our stitch count. I finished working all of the rows that go with the front face of my project, and you can see, because this yarn is thinner than what I used for the mask part of the cat face, we've got a little bit, let me put it this way, see a little bit of a angled slope. So what I'm going to do is mark these side stitches, and you don't have to count, just look for the halfway point, stretch it like such, and I'm going to use safety pins because they won't get lost in the fur. And this will help you adjust whichever furry yarn you choose to use for your cat. And I'm right here at where this stitch is about to meet this halfway point. And what I'm going to do is just work back and forth, maybe 4 rows up here, and then ending on this side so that I can continue the round and then start to close up. And I'll have my blue ragdoll head. Alright, so I've made about 4 rows back and forth, and I'm going to finish my closing round later. Now I've got to work on some of the finishing. So the nose and mouth have to be put in, and also the eyes. But before I do that, I'm going to put the fiber fill in, just to kind of get an idea of where I'm going to place the eyes. Now I want them right about here. Okay. Before I put the eyes in, I want to work on the nose and mouth area. So what you'll do is figure out where you want your eyes to be based on just personal taste and what shape you made your face mask if you did something different than what I'm showing here. And I've put a knot, one that's bigger than here, or bigger than these stitches, so it won't come through. And I'm just going to stitch through the shape of the nose and the mouth with this pink color. I'm using a different pink than here, but it doesn't matter. Any shade of pink you like will do. And I'm doing it before the eyes because once the eyes get stitched in, it gets a little tricky back here in this, this jungle of the cage of stitches in the back there, but you can work through them very easily. Alright, so my eyes, I'm going to take the stuffing out, but I just wanted the stuffing here to kind of see placement. So I'm going to have the nose start just under where the eyes are in the center. So the eyes are here. Put the nose here. Oh, I need to come out the other way. So the knot is on the inside. Go through. Make sure I don't get too much stuffing in there because I'm going to take it out. And then I'll come down to the center. There's other ways to do the nose and mouth design. You can look around online and see if you like something different than what I'm doing here. I'm feeling around to make sure I'm not getting the stuffing mixed in. I'll go back into that same stitch that I anchored this from. I couldn't come out there or that would undo the stitch. Go back in. Ragdolls have kind of broad noses because they're big cats. So I want it a little on the wide side. Come back in there. And we want it proportionate because this is a kind of a big cat head. But that's what we love about these cats, right? They're nice, big, beautiful heads. Now I'll do the mouth, and I'm going to make that slightly wider than the nose, just by one stitch width wider. Here. Some stuffing. These little projects have more tedious touches to them. Alright, so I line it up straight. That would make it the same size, but I'm going to go out one further. And then the other side here, come through there. There we go. And then I'm going to put the lashes on these eyes and close up the top. And I'll be back with the ears. Now I've added extra rows now at the top. Looks a little bit like a tunnel, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do is, I'm still playing around with the stuffing, and it's going to take a little effort to get it how you like it for your finished project. You see, as you close up the top, the ears will naturally develop. So I'm going to do one more row, and then I'll probably use a stitch back and forth to close this, but you could slip stitch, but keep in mind that the furry yarn is hard to frog, so if you want to change it up a little bit, the slip stitch could be hard to pull out. And then leave one of the corners, or the last corner, open so that you can use the stuffing tool, which is, you know, it's a chopstick, isn't it? And kind of finish the shape before you do your last couple of closing stitches. So as you've come to the end where you're closing up the very top and you see that it looks like little tiny ears are sprouting, but not quite full cat ears, that's another design hack for this difficult yarn. When you're adding in extra pieces, so on external pieces for amigurumi, it's already challenging to attach them to these rounded shapes. And when you add the extra challenge of the fuzzy yarn, having your ears be symmetrical will be challenging. And these little earbuds now that you've created are the perfect anchor for the ears you're going to make and then attach to the head as the finishing touch. The ears are a separate video that will be linked below.